two. Yedid nefesh av harachaman meshoch avdecha eretz zonecha yarutz avdecha k'mayal yishtachavev el mul hadarecha yerav lo yedidutecha minoch etzov bechol tam Adonai liv haolam nafshi cholat ahavatecha ana elna refana la והדמות לה נועם זיווך אז תתחזק ותתרפא והייתה לה שמחת עולם לה 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 Shabbat shalom, everybody. Good to see you all here. And those of you who are far afield and visiting with us virtually, Shabbat shalom to you as well. As we end a week of snow and cold and rain and more cold, and hopefully not more snow, we look to warm our hearts as we join together with prayers for Shabbat. And as we enter a new month, the month of Adar, and as we say, when the month of Adar begins, our joy increases. And so tonight we'll try to do a little bit more uplifting melodies if we can, to raise our spirits and to raise a little light in our lives. And to help us do that, I want to invite the Sutton family to help us light candles. Any members of the Sutton family who would like to participate are welcome to do so. Any and all are welcome. Oh, all of them will do so. Great. And so we turn to page, I believe, 4. Page 2.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat.
Thank you, students. Okay, we continue with Kabbalat Shabbat, beginning on page 12. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, nekat mafana v'toda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, v'zmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Page 13, we continue with Psalm 96. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Yalai, lai, 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 lai. Yalai, lai, 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 lai. Shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru miyom, liyom Yeshuato. Lai, 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 lai. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umalo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umlo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umlo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umlo. Yalo sarai v'chol asher bo, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, וימים באמונתו. אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו יהים רבים, ענן ורפל סביבה צדק ומשפט מכון כיסו. אוהבי אדוני שנאורה, שומר על נפשות חסידיו מיד רשעים יצילם. אור זרוע לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה. אור זרוע לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה. שמחו צדיקים באדוני, באדוני, והודו לזכר קודשו, לזכר קודשו. אור זרוע לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה. אור זרוע לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה. Page 15. מזמור שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, כי נפלאות עשה. הודי הושיע לו ימינו זרוע קודשו, הודי אדוני ישועתו. A psalm, sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm, has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory and displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Yisrael. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God Eloheinu. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. Page 16. Zamru Adonai Bechino, Bechino, Bechol Zimra. 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 בחצוצרות וקול שופר, הריעו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם הים ומלואו, הבל ויהושבע. Let the rivers clap their hands, and the mountains sing joyously together. at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. Lifnei Adonai kiva, kiva lishpat haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'meisharim. Psalm 29. Page 18. Page 20. Likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Shemianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, V'shemo tiferet ve'litila, Aylalai lecha dodi, Aylalai likrat kala, Aylalai p'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh v'machshavat chila, haylalai lecha dodi, haylalai likrat kala, haylalai p'nei Shabbat nekabel. Verse 4. Hitnari me'afar kumi, Livshi bigdei tifartechami, Ayad ben Yishai beit Allahni, Arba el nafshi, nafshi ge'ela, Haylalai lecha dodi, Haylalai likrat kala, Haylalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Now those words we just sang, Hitna ari me'afar kumi. Lift yourself up. Lishi bigde tifartechami. Arise and put on garments of beauty. Even though we might have had kind of a lousy week and we might have gotten some bad news, Shabbat is a time to give ourselves a reprieve and lift our spirits up and clothe them in glory for just 24 hours, to set it all aside and take off those rags from the week, and rinse off the schmutz and the hard feelings, and rejoice once more. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, hivarech kumi ori, 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 shir daberi, kevod Adonai alaych nigla, haylalai lecha dodi, haylalai likrat kala, haylalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Now lift yourselves up for real this time. Stand up and greet the Sabbath bride or greet one another. Put your arms around your loved ones. Zoe v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula, Zoe chala, Zoe kala, Halalai lecha dodi, Halalai likrat kala, Halalai penei Shabbat, Halalai lekabela, Halalai lecha dodi, Halalai likrat kala, Halalai penei Shabbat nekabela. Page 22, the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot lahadonai, ulzamer leshimcha elyon, ulzamer leshimcha elyon. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot lahadonai, ulzamer leshimcha elyon, ulzamer leshimcha elyon. Let's read together at the bottom of the page. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai. How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, and a fool cannot understand. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot lahadonai, ulzamer leshimcha elyon, ulzamer leshimcha elyon. Tzadik atamar yifrach, ke'erez balevanon yizgeh, shetolim beveit Adonai, bechatzarot Eloheinu yafrichu. Seva Shenim Berananim Io Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlatabo. Page 24. Shalom Aleichem. We greet the angels that accompany us through the week and to the temple and back home once more. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitechem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 26. Yikada v'yikada Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma divrach Chilutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, U'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, U'v'zman kariv, V'yimeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach, Le'olam olam me'amaya, Yibarach. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach, V'yitbar v'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala, Shmei dekudesha, Brichu le'ela, Min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen. We rise on page 28 for the call to prayer. Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Let's turn to page 30 and read together. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opening the gates thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly orbits according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'haravi. As we turn to page 32 and recite the words Ahavad Olam, endless is your love, we remind ourselves we are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shofenu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ויורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Now, Shevet, please be seated as we continue with more words of love. This time, the words of love that we have for Adonai and for the world around us. Page 36. Ve'ahavata et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem. Amen. Let's turn to page 39 and read at the top of the page. Actually, let's read at the bottom of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and your love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we sing as Israel did on the shores of the sea. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם. Page 40. תהילות עושה פלא נורא, תהילות עושה פלא. I want to repeat that part so I can hear them, okay? So you play a little more pianissimo and I'm going to hear them do it. נורא תהילות עושה פלא נורא, תהילות עושה פלא. They did it. מלכותך ראו בניך חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה אלי אנו ויאמרו זה אלי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר יפקד אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 42. We ask Adonai to spread God's shelter of peace over us, the Sukkot Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Ve'yamidenu shomreinu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Ve'yamidenu shomreinu shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. ופרוס עלינו, ופרוס עלינו, סוכת שלומך. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace and rise us up, O our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel for your name's sake. Be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and our coming to life and peace evermore. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Page 44. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Page 46. I invite you to rise for tefillah or amidah, or rise in your hearts, whichever is most comfortable. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ויהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, Baruch atah Adonai Magen Abraham be'ezarat Sarah. Page 50. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו אישי עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue with moments of private meditation, using either the words provided on page 54 through page 58, or using the language of your heart. You're to continue davening at your own pace, or join me on page 60 as we offer the evening prayer for peace and wholeness. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. As we turn our thoughts to the sick and those in need of healing, we turn to page 253 as we hold in our hearts and in our minds the names of the cholim, the names of those who are suffering in body and in spirit. And we hold the vision of their faces in our mind's eye. And if you have a name you'd like to offer aloud, you can do so as my eyes meet yours. We offer this blessing for not only the body, but also the spirit. So we turn to page 253, and keeping their names and all those whose names we keep in our hearts, we say, Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. May they all have a speedy recovery of Afruat the Nefesh, Afruat the Guf. And now we turn to Rabbi Tara, who is going to offer us some words on this week's Torah portion, Parshat Truma, about facing one another, panim al panim, face to face, and the need for important treatment of the other as the holy. So whenever you're ready, Tara, Rabbi Tara, we welcome you to our screens.
Shabbat Shalom. Feeling just a tad under the weather today, and so I am coming to you from my own home. Nothing to worry about, I promise. And thank you, Cantor Davis, for keeping the home fires burning on the Bima tonight.
No fire in the Bima.
So I'm not sure how many of you saw the footage captured with a cell phone camera this past Saturday in the snowstorm. The scene, Lakewood, New Jersey. You see the snowplow driver in profile as the person in the passenger seat films. It's kind of a bumpy image. The truck is approaching two men, long black coats, walking along the side of the road, making their way through the snowdrifts. So it seems either to or from synagogue. You can't make out their faces, just their forms, black hats. They're typecast, obviously Orthodox. The driver gets closer to them, and then just as he is about to pass, he lowers his snowplow, spewing ice and snow all over the two men. The image goes white. The driver cackles, or maybe just laughs. Later, the coworker who was filming the snowplow driver posted the video to Facebook with the words, "This one's for you, JC." Okay. So there was disciplinary action, suspension of the men in the snowplow. But then there's always another assault, Whoopi Goldberg's Holocaust commentary or something else. Speaking of commentary, I highly recommend listening to Barry Weiss's recent interview with Imam Abdullah Antepli, who speaks about rising anti-Semitism within the Muslim community. It's really excellent. In any case, the pervasive sense of vulnerability that I had when that swastika was etched into my high school locker, it's a feeling I have very frequently these days as a Jew, and one who chooses to out herself as such, to enter Jewish spaces, committing to Jewish community, to praying and working in a synagogue. We read this week in Parashat Truma of the establishment of that very first synagogue, that first house of worship, the Mishkan, the traveling tabernacle in the wilderness. God says this week these famous, beautiful words, Va'asu li mikdash, let them make me a sanctuary, v'shachanti b'tocham, that I may dwell among them, within them. And just how will that sanctuary be built? With trumot, gifts, voluntary donations from the heart. In our Torah reading, we receive a very specific wish list from God for the construction of this holy space, along with instructions that would put an IKEA building manual to shame. Zahav, v'chesef, u'nechoshet, gold, silver, and copper. U'techelet v'argaman v'tola'at shani, blue and purple, crimson yarn, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skin, acacia wood, shemen lamaor, oil for lighting, spices for anointing, aromatic incense, avnei shoham, lapis lazuli, and other gems. But as the Mishkan is constructed with all of its intricate design and scent and sparkle, it is the following very particular aspect of the tabernacle that has always captured my imagination. Va'asita shnaim kruvim, make two cherubim, zahav mikshah, of hammered gold. One cherub is to be placed on one end of the Ark of the Covenant, and the other cherub at the other. And then there is this really beautiful image. Porsei kanafayim lamala, they shall have their wings spread out above, kind of shielding the cover of the curtain in front of the ark. Ufnehem ish el achiv, and the cherubim will face each other. So what exactly were these cherubim? While we are indeed approaching Valentine's Day, this is a different type of cherub altogether, I think. Jewish tradition teaches that they were some combination of bull and eagle and lion. Teaches Abarvanel, coming to us from Italy, in his commentary from some 500 years ago, these cherubs had the form of young humans without any blemish. But he doesn't mention any bows and arrows, who had never tasted sin. And Rashi actually agrees. The Kruvim were children. But Talmud, Yoma 54, has a bit of a racier view. Said Rav Katina, when the Israelites would come to the temple for the holiday, the curtain would be pulled back and the priests would see the cherubs entwined with each other. The Kohanim would then say, behold, the love of you before God is like the love of a man and a woman. So however we imagine these mythic beings as fantastical creatures or innocent children or as lovers, clearly the image presented to us is one of meeting. Ufnehem ish el achiv, and the cherubs would face each other, unguarded with those wings raised, almost an embrace. In other words, at the epicenter, the very holiest spot in the Mishkan, right where the 10 Commandments are housed, that place where God would appear and speak to Moses, that holy space is defined by encounter, where a mythical creature or an infant or a lover turns toward the other. Panim el panim, face to face. Emmanuel Levinas, the Lithuanian-born French philosopher who spent much of World War II living as a prisoner of war, teaches that the very foundation of human morality, the source of our obligation toward our responsibility for one another, can be found in the face, can be found when we look at each other, just like those cherubim. So just test this out. This is a little harder if you're alone. If you're alone at home, you can look at me. But if you happen to be in the Rudin Chapel or somewhere with someone else, I invite you to take just a moment and look into their eyes. If you're really brave, you can glance at someone who you don't know well. And if you're alone, again, just look at me. Okay. Come back. Uncomfortable? How'd that make you feel? Have you ever looked away or avoided eye contact because it was just too intense or awkward, or maybe because you didn't want to feel obligated? If so, then you don't need to be an esoteric French philosopher to understand, to know what Levinas is talking about when he writes these beautiful words. Listen, the face is a living presence. The face speaks. In front of the face, I always demand more of myself. The face is what forbids us to kill. Okay, so let's leave philosophy aside for a minute. On to some more difficult news. Sorry. January 12th, just a few weeks ago, in the early hours of the morning, Omar Assad, a 78-year-old Palestinian American, was returning home to his village north of Ramallah. After 40 years living in Milwaukee in 2009, he and his wife moved back from America to the West Bank. Stopping at checkpoints is something which he has grown accustomed to. But at this newly established checkpoint, something different happens. Assad is taken from his car, bound, blindfolded, gagged, and detained by IDF soldiers along with several other Palestinians in an abandoned home. After a period of time, a soldier cuts the zip ties that bind Omar's wrists and then leaves this almost 80-year-old man face down, motionless in the cold, saying later that they thought he must have been asleep. An autopsy reveals Assad died of a stress-induced heart attack. Senior Israeli military officials have called this a horrific incident, saying that these soldiers detained Assad without sufficient reason and, quote, did not see the human being before them, close quote. Perhaps it was easier because the old man's face was obscured, because it was night, he was blindfolded. I'm thinking back to Levinas. The face is a living presence. The face speaks. In front of the face, I always demand more of myself. The face is what forbids us to kill. I'm thinking as well of those keruvim, the cherubim. Talmud Bava Batra teaches that in days of old, when the people of Israel would fulfill God's will, the cherubim would face each other. And when the people of Israel did not fulfill God's will, they would turn and face the wall. The face calls us to holiness. When we are willing to behold the face in all its humanity and majesty and vulnerability. Let's go back to the snowplow. One thing that strikes me about that video is the anonymity of those two pedestrians, just two faceless Jews. Lower the snowplow, bury him. When we don't actually see the other, we can do anything, say anything. I must admit that I experienced the same feeling of disorienting facelessness when I heard of Amnesty International's recent diagnosis and critique of Israel as an apartheid state. Why is this label jarring and inaccurate? Humor me for a moment. I'm sure you've read a lot, but I have to say it this Shabbat. Just a few basics. Yes, the Arab minority in Israel, that's about 20% of the population, does truly face challenges. There is work to be done. But Arab Israelis participate as full citizens, voting in elections, sitting in the Knesset. There are Arab justices on Israel's Supreme Court. And for the first time in Israel's history, the United Arab Party, Ra'am, is part of Israel's present governing coalition. About 20% of doctors in Israel are Arab, and half of pharmacists are. I know, mine is. And the biggest percentage of student drivers that I see in Jerusalem, and they're easy to spot because they have a big lamed on their car, they're Arab women. For Israel is a country that affirms their rights. Roughly 17% of students seeking an undergraduate degree in Israel are Arab. And for our son's internship, the second year of national service, working at a large government employment office, Gabi spends his days with a committed and passionate team working on trying to figure out how to leverage massive government funds in the most strategic way possible to support the employment of Israeli Arabs, to improve their quality of life. Yes, there is much more that needs to be done. But whether it's the person giving or receiving care in an Israeli emergency room, or the person buying skinny jeans or the latte at the mall, Arab or Jew, the lines are not what you might think or imagine they would be. Okay, now Arabs in the Palestinian territories fare less well for sure when it comes to democratic representation or by so many other metrics. Where lies the responsibility for that differential is a Devar Torah for another night. But for the purposes of this sermon, like those two roadside Jews in Lakewood, covered by the snow as the plow cruises by, the calling Israel an apartheid state is like an avalanche, completely shrouding the authentic identity, the complexity and reality of what Israel is. In spite of its challenges, moral infractions, and at moments outright failures. That's why I shared the painful story that I did about Omar Assad. And God knows there are more to tell, but the apartheid label obscures the face, the actuality, not only of what Israel is, but what it strives to be. Okay, so deep breath. Let's move from the political a little closer to home. How do we actualize this holiness of the cherubim, this Torah of the face? How do we do that? What does that even mean? I mean, it's pretty philosophy, but how can I utilize it? Here's some homework. The next time you have the desire to say something critical about someone, maybe it's a juicy bit of gossip or blowing off steam of frustration. It's not that you can't say it, maybe say it, but imagine that person looking at you as you speak. Behold their face. And just notice what happens. It's ironic that in the screechy world of Facebook, we do not actually encounter the face. I mean, the real unfiltered face in real time. Perhaps thus the increased volume, narcissism, or volatile echo chamber nature of the Facebook forum. Returning now to Levinas. The face is a living presence. The face speaks. In front of the face, I always demand more of myself. The face is what forbids us to kill. It's interesting. If you turn the letter Aleph on its side, Aleph is for Elohim, God. If you turn it on its side, I should have brought a diagram, you can actually see a nose and two eyes. God is in the face. When the people fulfill God's will, the cherubim face each other. When they do not, they turn away. This Shabbat Truma, May we know that the holiness of spaces and communities and nations that we construct and inhabit, like the holiness of that ancient sparkling Mishkan, this sanctity is all bound up in our ability, like that of those golden cherubim, to face one another. This Shabbat Truma, a Sabbath of sacred offerings, may we offer our full and attentive and unadorned gaze to the face of our beloved or to a friend, even if it's over Zoom. This Shabbat, may we hold that gaze just a second longer, even taking a moment to look into the face of a stranger. Maybe we can only see their eyes, but knowing that as we do so, it is a sacred offering that we give. This Shabbat and every day, may we look at one another and maybe even into the mirror with a sense of personal dignity, with unwavering honesty, with humility, with compassion, and with love. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi Tara. We continue our worship with Aleinu on page 282. Please rise. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. נא לשבת. We turn now to the words of praise that we offer in the stead of those who are no longer able to do so. And as we turn to page 294, we turn our hearts to them. This week it's my sad responsibility to share the passing of Florence Dickman, Judy Greenblatt, and Norman Sutton. We also are remembering those who passed in the last 30 days: Rosalind Haber, Michael Horn, Robert Nauer, Rita Perman, Barbara Zale, and Michael Zarin. Additionally, we remember those who have gone before us and whose memories we recall on this Shabbat and this week, including Dari Arbital, James Belzer, Lila Freed, Arthur Grain, Molly Greenberg, Sadie Halm, Sigmund Hand, Brandon Hirsch, Philip Lear, Michael Lipstein, Ian Harris Lowenkron, Myrna Hausman Miller, Dorothy Barish Nathan, Bertha Petashik, William Scheinfeld, and Faye Berlin. If you're among those who are observing Yort sites, if you are among the mourning, or if it's your custom to recite Mourner's Kaddish on behalf of the martyrs of our people or those who are no longer able to do so, I invite you to rise at this moment as we recite together Yit Kadal V'Yit Kada Shemei Rabba Ve'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevorach leolam ulomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Eila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Ose shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to all of us and to all of Israel. And to that, may we say, Amen. You may be seated. I want to thank you all for coming out on this cold and wet evening. Shai and I are particularly glad that we had company. Your souls and your presence warm us. They warm our faces, even more so than the masks we are wearing. So thank you for being here, and thank you to everyone who is online and sharing this Shabbat with us. A few announcements. Tomorrow morning, Torah study will be online only. I believe it starts formally at 9:15 with a informal schmooze start time of 9 o'clock. So if you want to schmooze and share your coffee and schmear, feel free to do so at 9 o'clock, but 9:15, we are starting Torah study. So I'm happy to be joining you tomorrow morning for that, followed by a Shabbat morning service, also online only. So please tune in to your Zoom links. And if you're watching this, I think you already have the link and the password. So Sunday, February 6th, that's this Sunday. We have those of us who are Bar Mitzvah cohort have the Netivot program. The sixth graders have Netivot, and Sunday morning at 11 a.m. following that, Become a Soulful Parent with Rabbi Tara. That is online, and we'll be meeting with author Dasi Berkowitz, the author of Becoming a Soulful Parent. And I should note that this is not just for people who are parents of young children. You could be a parent of a teenager, or you could be the parent of a grown adult, or you could be a future parent. So all parents are welcome. Thursday, February 10th, please join me at 2 o'clock for our occasional midday music and meditation. Om. Be happy to see many of you online. If you want to join us, no meditation skills are necessary. It's a 30-minute sharing of music and mindfulness and text. It's a lot of fun. And see your emails for information on that. Some of you may have been looking forward to the jazz night on February 12th with Shai and the Kedmis. Unfortunately, that's being postponed. We will have more information for when that is going to be rescheduled. The monthly Brotherhood meeting is on the 17th. And beyond that, I have very little to share that is not already in your emails. So I'm going to say, see your emails, because it's exciting to read emails. It's a great way to break up the day. Okay, I want to thank everyone who not only was here tonight, but I want to thank the Sutons for lighting candles. And if you'd be so kind as to help lead us in Kiddush as well, we would be honored for that. While they are coming up, we can thank the Margaloff family for the challah, and our Onig bakers, Debbie Sutton, Roberta Lulov, Linda Diamond, Cheryl Silverstein, and I want to thank everyone who's helped behind the scenes and here tonight. Several of you have been helping with some of our tech needs, so thank you for that. Thank you, Shai. It's always a pleasure to work with you. Okay, so you can raise, how about one of the girls raises the glass as high, raise the cup, the Kiddush cup as high as you can, because when you do that, it said that that's the height of your future partner. So hold it as high as you want it. There you go, very high, very good. Okay, nicely done, nicely done. So we're on page, I want to say We're on page 4. Okay, so there's should be a mic there. Okay, and if you how about I'll start on page 4. Vayihir vayivoker yom hashishi vayichulu hashamayim ve'aretz v'chol tzavam vayichol Elohim beyom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishpot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa vayavarech Elohim et yom hashavi'i vayikadesh oto ki vo shavat mikol melachto Asher bara Elohim la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Amen. Asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yavo v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila lemikrai kodesh, zeicher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. Okay, now we can make a motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You can take one of those. I think they're unwrapped already, so you can take them. And when the rabbi thanked me for keeping the fire aflame, she did not mean set the challah cover on fire. So, all right, very good. And we'll have a short oneg to go on the other side. And by special request, we will close with page 356. Havir harim tzalul kayayim וריח אורנים, נישא ברוח הרבים עם כל פעמונים. ובתרדמת אילן ואבן, שוביה בחלומה. העיר אשר בדד יושבת, ובליבה חומה. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you. making problems to me, giving me problems. She stopped giving me problems. Yeah.